And this is a cooperative dungeon crawl game that fits all into a very tiny tin. The way that this game works is that there's going to be 3 different decks, with each of those decks representing 3 different levels of the dungeon that you're going to have to try and make your way through. In order to progress through the dungeon, you have to defeat every enemy that you come across, and you also have to make it to the end. If the players are able to accomplish both those tasks, then they will win the game, but each player is also going to be playing as their own unique character, with 4 different actions that they're going to be choosing from as they make their way throughout the dungeon. Players are just going to be going through one level of the dungeon at a time, and in order to set up that level of the dungeon, you're going to be taking cards randomly from the associated deck, and then putting them in the particular shape according to the setup card. Cards don't have any specific orientation that they need to be, so it does add a lot of variety from game to game, but the cards are put face down until a player reveals them by moving over to the edge of one of the cards that they're currently located on. During a round, players are going to be taking turns performing one of their actions on their turn, but then performing as many free actions as they like. In order to perform their main action, you're going to be taking your action token and then putting it on one of the 4 sections of your 2 action cards. This can allow you to perform all sorts of different actions like attack the enemies, move stealthily through the dungeon, or even heal yourself or your accompanying players. But one thing to note here is that you do have to move this action token to a new location every single turn, which means that that action you just performed won't be available on your following turn. Each player is also going to have a base number of movement that they'll be able to spend during their turn. That's going to allow you to move around on the dungeon to explore different areas and perform your free actions like revealing adjacent cards, interacting with different objects, or even picking up items. Whenever you do either of those things, you're going to be drawing cards from the associated deck, which can grant you with some one-time use abilities or actions. But whenever a monster is revealed, players are going to be drawing a card from the monster deck in order to determine what type of monster that is, and then players will be able to attack that monster. But once all the players have performed their actions, that ends the round for the players, and then each of the monsters are going to be activated, attacking whichever characters they're able to attack, prioritizing attacking multiple characters if they are able to do so. The enemies work a little bit simpler with just some instructions on the card that let you know how far they can move and then how much damage they're going to do and how many enemies they can attack. But it's not just the enemies that the players need to worry about, because the dungeon itself does come with its own dangers, and during the enemy's turn you're also going to be rolling a die to determine if there's any seismic events within the dungeon, which can potentially issue damage to every single one of your characters. This new edition of the game is going to be taking players to a brand new location with its own set of dungeons, enemies, and characters, and players will also be able to interact with some new mechanisms as well, as there will be a nice little ship added to the game which you can use to navigate over different sections of water.